Be a part of whatever. Hey. All right, and welcome to all my friends there on the internet, Facebook, YouTube followers, subscribers. We're glad you're tuned in. Ooh, that sun looks a little bright. Can you see me out there? There we go. Okay, we are pretty good. Great. So today's garden class is on flowering trees. I've kind of expanded that a little bit, just trees, Arbor Day, Earth Day. It's time for trees. It's a really good time to put them in the ground too. So it's a good time to be planting. The main thing you have to do is touch on watering, and we'll touch on watering. We'll go deep on watering, because if you make a mistake right now, it'll hurt you. Anything new, but especially trees, because they've got all this tender new growth. So we'll go over trees, how to plant them, how to water, what to watch for, like thrip route right now. I'm going to show you how to identify that in your own yards or your trees. And by the time you get done, you'll have a pretty much honed in education on what should I be looking for planting. There is no way I can go over all the varieties of trees that you can plant here at the Garden Center. So I'm going to focus mainly on planting, blooming, and fruiting trees, spring and summer. So my name is Ken Lane. I'm the owner of the Garden Center, second generation owner. So my father-in-law started the business back in 1962. He and Harold Waters and Lorna Waters, Lisa's parents, my wife, started the business. And so I married into the family. That's how Ken and Lisa Lane come to own Waters Garden Center. It's still in the bloodline. We got 4 kids that are working here just today. So they're all in their 20s, 30s, including Jeremy. Say hi. Yeah, my son-in-law. So my oldest daughter married very well. So it's kind of, we're happy to have him in the nursery.
As I don't get the camera working.
Thank you. So anyway, that's kind of who we're at. To our online folks, we're glad you're there. You can type in questions, ask things, or just hone in. So we're glad that you tuned in. To our VIP customers, virtual in person, we love you all the most because you're actually here. Although we know you guys come in, you'll be here this afternoon. We got it. So I'll try to repeat things so that you can hear as well. So trees, let me just get it out of the way. We're not going to grow Palo Verde. We don't grow saguaros. We don't grow all that desert stuff. If you're from Scottsdale, really Black Canyon City and further south, just all those things you knew down there, just erase, reboot, start over. None of that pertains to up here. Here we grow better trees. So I'm going to go over those trees that belong in God's country, up in this high altitude, high elevation. What you want are trees, plants that can take that cold winter. Really, is what you're after. And so that's going to be things that can go down to 0 degrees. We're a zone 7 garden zone. That's, you look at the USDA national zone, we're zone 7. That means you need plants to go down to 5 degrees. I like to go down to 6B, something like that, because we are going to get a cold every 10, 12 years when we go sub-zero. I mean, it's like you put the blinkers on the car, they go, ooh, I'm cold. Everything moves in slow motion. It's freaky. If you have years like that, it kills off a lot of these borderline plants. And so you want plants, especially your trees, because trees are expensive. A good tree is expensive. You want them to go through all that. And I'll give you examples of what to look for in a good tree. by the time we're all done. Let's just see if I have a plant. Do I have some that, here's a good example. Let me come around here, hold on. Of grafted trees. This is a great example of what to look for. So now when we're growing trees, all of our trees are grafted trees. What that means is we've grafted, you'll see right here a little nodule at the base. And I wish I could lift this tree up for you all, but you'll just have to trust me on the verbal description. There's a graft right here. So what we'll do is we know which rootstock grows really well in clay soils. And so we're taking that rootstock, we'll take a cutting off of this tree and graft it onto that stronger rootstock. So now we've got a clone of this exact, we'll find the perfect, this is a golden locust. Some golden locusts are ugly. Some are pretty. Some have huge thorns. Some have none. Some have better yellow. We'll find the perfect specimen. And we're taking cuttings off of that specimen so we get the exact DNA, that exact look from that plant. It will look just like its mother plant. We'll graft it onto a stronger rootstock. That's considered very desirable. That's a good tree. That's what you want. You don't want trees grown by seed, because now you get all the DNA, the variations. You get some that are just, they're not that pretty. Some that are gorgeous, some that you really want. So you kind of, by grafting those, you get exact copies. What you'll also notice, the reason I pulled this example, this one's been grafted. Some of these trees, you'll see 3 or 4 or 5 grafts on one tree. Trees will grow really fast and be a whip. We call it a whip. And it'll have no branching. It just focuses on growing straight up, no branches. So you've got to top the tree to force it to, and you got to top it about 18 inches. This is a trick as you're just pruning. If a tree starts growing, it focuses all of its energy onto one branch, and that's where it's just growing. You simply cut it back about 18 inches. It'll actually stop that growth. There's growth hormone at the very tip of that branch. Cut it back about 18 inches, it cuts all that growth hormone, it stops growing. And now it pushes all that energy into other branches. Well, we know that about trees, so we'll top the tree about 18 inches, stops growing the leader. And so now it pushes all of its energy into a better trunk, so you get a bigger, hardier trunk, and you'll start getting the scaffolding or the structure or the crown of that plant. You get a better, more structured plant. I guess I should turn this, there's the best side of that tree. Trees are just like people. They got their best sides. They got their not as good sides. That's a pretty tree. It's golden locust. Anytime you hear the word locust, you know you got a good tree. They're tough. They take our wind. Drought hardy. Anything that says the word locust, drought hardy. Golden locust, all the new growth is gold. You're seeing these starting to wake up this week all around town. Next week, they'll really look good. So this literally started leafing out this week. So it just leafed out. As the foliage matures, it'll turn green and have maybe a yellow hue. But basically, it's a green shade tree, has a shape about like this. And then its fall color goes back to this again. Doesn't really pertain to this class. It doesn't bloom, or the blooms are really tiny. But it's just pretty foliage color. So it has this bright, looks really good with purple. Did I bring a purple? This is a great companion plant. Those two guys just look great together. That looks like a great design. So this is a purple KB plum or purple leaf plum. This kind of started out a month and a half ago, started to bloom with a pink flower. Now it's done blooming, it's putting on this foliage, this purple foliage. And this is its color in the spring, in the fall, in the summer, this is its color. And then it'll drop its foliage, or it's deciduous, loses its leaves in the winter. Usually about October, mid-November, it's kind of drops its leaves and it's done. So doesn't bloom, but it sure looks good with the bloomers. So that's why I brought it together. What I wanted to show you with this, though, is this actually has a graft at the very top. So what happens is if you cut the leader off, you kind of want a nice, straight, tall tree. If you cut it off, you don't have a nice straight, it stops growing the leader. So what we did here, we actually cut the leader off to force it to get a bigger trunk. And then we cut another side shoot off and we grafted. So you'll see this tape or Band-Aid. That's an additional graft. And that's how you get a really shape. That's the artistry of trees. You'll see a lot of our trees. You'll see this tape at the top. That's grafting tape. And so we're cutting, shaping, cutting, shaping, cutting, shape. We're forcing it to have a big trunk with this nice shape. This tree is probably 7 years old, 8 years old, something like that. So we've been, since its cutting, since its initial graft, we've been growing this, shaping it for years. And now you finally get, when you put it in the ground, it'll finally start growing in that perfect shape, which is what you want. So trees are where you really want to focus your money, because if you get an ugly one with a dog leg and it doesn't quite fill in, once a tree is ugly, it is always ugly. You're never going to get it to turn around. Once it has a bad side, once it has a scarred whatever, it never turns around. So really focus. That's where you don't want your landscaper to go, yeah, just pick me up a KV Plum, I'll take it. You want to hand pick. Trust me, you all want to hand pick your trees, or go in with your gardener. Go in or get it, tag it, have them pick it up. You want to hand pick those. A red tip photinia, those things are weeds. They grow like 4 or 5 feet a year. They're like monsters. You can't go wrong. Get a tiny, ugly one, give it some fertilizer, it turns into this big plant. Trees aren't as aggressive. They need to be more, they need to be shaped some more. There's an art form to it. But this is the double graft. Just want to show off graft, graft. Let me put this away. You know what golden locust is? Actually, a related plant to this out in Dewey and Prescott Valley. It just started maybe 2 days ago, just this week. A tree, a locust, that's got big blue flowers starting to come out, about 8-inch long clusters of flowers. Those are purple robe locust. Has the same kind of leaf, kind of round lobed leaf, lots of leaves, very drought hardy, but it's got a wisteria kind of blossom to it. If it was in bloom here, I would have brought one, but it's still kind of twiggy. Right? Not worthy of the class. Next week, they seem to always, in Prescott proper, seem to always bloom at Mother's Day. So you can almost count on them be ready for that backyard barbecue for Mother's Day. They're going to be in bloom. So that's kind of, they were just about a week behind the dewy lower parts of Prescott Valley, which is kind of 4,200 to 5,000 foot level. Here at 5,000 to 6,000, it'll be a week behind, but look for those. Purple robe locust. Now you know what they are. So you're driving down the highway, oh yeah, that's a purple robe locust. Yeah, that's about a, I don't know, a 15-year-old tree. Yeah, it's up about 30 feet by 15 feet wide. Nice, big, just kind of globe-shaped tree. In fact, I shot a picture of that, a video 2 days ago of one that was in Page, Arizona. That's about the same as Dewey. They bloom when Dewey and Prescott Valley blooms. They were all in bloom. It's been raining up there, so they just went into plot. They just popped into color like that. But this is a perfect example. Pulled my phone out, took some photos. If you're following us on Facebook, and I know you are, just hit subscribe now and like it and make a comment, because Google likes that when you do that for us. If you're following us on Instagram, I think it'll even go out on Twitter. You'll see that pretty shortly. Quick video. It's like 40 seconds. But then you'll know what they look like, and they were fully mature trees. Locusts, you're always going to have a good drought-hardy tree with anything with the word locust. Okay, now where was I at? Grafts. Let's see, I'm going to break this up into fruiting, spring, and summer. Let's do it that way. So that'll be good. Spring, let's start with spring trees, shall we? So one that's been in bloom for about a week, well, about a month, really. This is serviceberry, and it's a companion plant with this. This is a companion. These two guys like to bloom at about the same time. They take the same sun. They take the same water, the same wind, they take the same. So this one's been in bloom for at least a month. This is red bud. Bright, bright pink flowers, kind of a short tree, up to about 15, low, in the teens somewhere, under 20 feet tall. have an umbrella shape to it, but it puts on these big heart-shaped leaves. This is forest pansy. Usually eastern redbud's the most popular because it has a green leaf. Same tree, you just have blonde or brunette. That's the only difference. They take the same sun, same wind, same everything, same flower. This one is desirable because it comes out with that purple tinge of color. And the fall color, kind of an orangey red. Kind of nice. Excuse me. Pollen. Oh, the junipers are going crazy. I have a huge male juniper right outside the bedroom window. I don't stand a chance. There's no way I'm getting past that. I'm going to have allergies. So anyway, this one's been in bloom. Now it's done blooming. Now it's starting to put its leaves on. This will be a nice round tree, great single trunk. They also make one that grows wild here. It's called Western or Mexican redbud. Usually it's a shrubbier kind of plant, but you'll see something that looks like this just in the wild, especially at the lower elevations, 4,000 to 5,000 foot level where the mesquites kind of grow. That's one of these. And it's just this white, it blooms pink. Just the flower, the leaf is a little bit smaller, about that big, and the flowers are just a little lighter pink, not that deep, rich pink. This one's almost fluorescent pink. This has a white flower. This is service berry, grows wild. It's a native. This is xeriscape. I want to get up to size and never care for it again. That's this one. It's got a white flower like this. It's just finishing up with the white flowers. Now it's put on its green foliage. It'll actually put a little berry on that are edible. You'll never get one because the birds think they've died and gone to heaven with us. They just love the little berries. Really, this claim to fame, drought hardiness. The white flowers are kind of nice, but the fall color is intense. We're talking glowing orange. We sell more of these in the fall than we do in the spring with the flower because the fall color is just so bright. Short tree, up to about 20 feet or so. Again, similar size to redbud. So it's a great little drought hardy tree that goes well in just about any landscape at any elevation. As long as you're up in God's country. Any elevation meaning not Phoenix. I mean, who would live 10 miles from the sun? That's crazy. What? Get out of there. It's too hot. You got to be kidding me. Okay. This one's about to go into bloom. This one usually leaves out, and then it has these yellow flowers that come down. Let's make sure I got this right. No, this is purple Robelocus. That's wrong. Golden chain. This is the one I wanted. There's a beautiful one of these down at Charlotte Hall Museum area. It's a big boy. This is a giant. It looks innocent. This is a 50, 60 foot shade tree. Big trunk like this in a few decades. But its claim to fame, it has these yellow flowers that can hover all over this thing. Big yellow flowers to it that the butterflies, monarchs, swallowtails love. They just love it. Very drought hardy. I would not put this right next to my foundation. My pavers, it can be a little mischievous at lifting some stuff. So kind of put it out there by the fence line. Don't put it close to the house. It just gets too big and aggressive. Kind of like sycamores are notorious for that. Willows, cottonwoods, famous for that. They just lift everything up and then they die in pretty short order. So golden chain tree. Now we'll switch to, let's do this one. I have any other shade? Let's do some fruit we'll do later. Let's do this. This one's super, super unusual that people are surprised we can grow. Can you see that? It's been in bloom the different varieties have been in bloom for a month and a half. This is a deciduous magnolia. So the deciduous loses its leaves, magnolias. These are animal resistive, drought hardy, and they'll go down to like minus 40 degrees. Some crazy cold. Generally, they're going to be kind of a tall shrub or a short tree. Generally multi-stemmed is how you're going to see these grow naturally in landscapes. But you can count on them to have these flowers. Usually, this has been covered in flowers. Now it's dropping its flowers, and now it's turning into this great foliaged plant. Very robust. Things just don't seem to bother them. Surprising that magnolias would do so well. There is a evergreen variety for you folks from the South that also does well here. You just can't grow any southern magnolia. There's an Alta southern magnolia. It's a hardier variety that'll go down to our coldest winters. It'll winter over for us even when you go sub-zero. The traditional southern magnolias that you see in Georgia, the true south, those are going to die out after a few years. Just you'll be tempted to buy them because they're so pretty, but the Alta is a little bit smaller leaf, but the same big white flower to it, same fragrance. And I grow a couple of those myself in my yards. They're just great plants. But magnolias, they can grow here. Does that smell good? Yes, it does smell good. Yes, magnolias do smell good. Okay, yes. Oh, yeah, thank you. So I've got 2 handouts. We're going to cover watering here shortly. I've got the water guide. How long and how much should you water a tree, a shrub, a new tree, an older tree? This is going to play out. You need to really care for your plants more than usual this year. And I would suggest don't even trust your drip system. Drip systems truly are a life support system to in between water cycles, natural rain. We've not seen that for a year and a half now. We've not seen moisture for over a year. We had one snow event back in January that did nothing. It came at the wrong time. If anything, it damaged roots because they drowned. They literally suffocated. We're seeing lots of death and decay with lavenders, rosemaries. They were just heucheras. They were just buried under so much snow for so long, it killed them. Not from overwater, just they couldn't see the sun. They just rotted under all that snow. And the voles came in and ate them, gophers. It was just a mess. And then it was at the wrong time where the plants couldn't absorb it. It was too cold. The plants were actively using moisture. And so we literally the plants have had usable moisture for over a year. So your drip system is usually good at supplementing rain. It's not good at keeping plants alive by themselves. You got a drip emitter here, this big tree. Where are the roots going out? You don't know. I would probably, what I'm suggesting to folks is go down and buy a soaker hose, just kind of zigzag it through the landscape, around the plants, get it close, turn it on for half a day. Just don't go crazy. About once a month is probably enough. You're just supplementing your drip system with that soaker hose until the rains come. And we're not going to see rain until July. I mean, any real rain, monsoons hit usually about July 4th or so. And then we see some serious moisture. Hopefully, we need that to happen this year. With that water guide, since while we're on water, I'll just tell you, new trees need water twice a week, now through October. That's it. Established trees, something's been out there for a while, it needs water once a week. The problem I find people have is they don't know how long to leave the drip system on. It's like a mysterious thing. Just realize that emitter is typically dropping about 1 gallon per hour. You need to leave it on for an hour to get 1 gallon of water on. Let me just give you I'm going to take this chair real quick. Hold on. Let me just tell you that this is a 4-gallon rose. The tree roses just came in. So we got shorted last year. You could not find a tree rose to save you. COVID, all that stuff. This year we got all of our tree roses, kind of 2 sizes. It's kind of exciting. So I've gone without my tree rose fix for 2 years now. Finally got it. 4-gallon plant will need about 4 gallons of water a week. So I would water it twice, 2 gallons at a time. So now you can figure out how many, maybe 2 1-gallon emitters run for an hour. I'd have enough. Or 1 2-gallon emitter twice a week for an hour would be good. So you can do the math real quick, but you're running these drip systems for hours, not minutes. Find a lot of folks that come from flood irrigation or pop-up sprays. They're used to high flow. They're used to minutes of watering, not hours. You've got to totally change your thinking and water in hours. This is trees and shrubs, vines, big rooted things. Flowers, grass, tomatoes, they're shallower rooted. They need water more frequently, but still I would try to go beyond once a day. I try to go every other day. Right now I'm at every 3rd day, and they seem to be doing fine. I typically, I know which plants are kind of crybabies. So tomatoes, they're notorious for just whining. Did they get dry? They just go, I'm so dry, and they start drooping. Pansies start drooping. My magnolias, the green ones, the leaves will start laying down. I know what to look for. So I go, oh, the crybabies, they're all whining. Watch for them. And then everything else in the yard is dry too. They're not whining about it. So now you know how long you can go before you need to recycle that plant on that irrigation cycle again. The main thing I'm worried about right now for my friends, and you all are my friends, watch your evergreens, watch your natives. They're suffering terribly right now. In fact, they're dying right now. They may already be dead, you don't even know it right now. So I would really take a soaker hose and put those around my junipers, ponderosas, pinyon pines. Bark beetle are going after those like I've never seen. Scale is going after those like I've never seen before. And they'll take them down in the month of June. It'll take that long, and they'll just all of a sudden, in just like 2-3 days, collapse. They'll go from green, everything's okay, to brown. And once that happens, there's no bringing it back. It is officially dead. Just go buy a new chainsaw and start hacking on it. That's the only viable out of that. So protect them. I don't know if you've priced out what it costs to remove a big tree. It's really expensive. You don't want to do that. It's way cheaper to give it a little food and some water than it is to have them removed. So just kind of watch those. A juniper will rebound just like that. You give them any amount of moisture at all, they just rebound, and they'll get these brown tips. You water them a little bit, it stops. Ponderosas take a little bit longer. They've got deeper roots, but it takes a little longer for them to get all that moisture up through the structure because they're just so big. Pinions tend to rebound pretty quick. Then your oaks are less problematic. You can't kill an oak. They're kind of a weed. What happens with oak trees, the emery oaks and the scrub oaks both, the native oak trees, they just won't relief. They'll just sit there in stasis until moisture comes. So if you water them at all, they'll rebound. They have this beautiful blue, nice foliage to it. So I'd say water and food goes a long ways. Right now I'm telling folks, put the 744 all-purpose food down around the tree lines, the drip line, not the base. You want to be out towards the outer branches, and then water with a soaker hose once a month for your natives. Maybe twice a month for the non-native ornamental stuff. Don't overdo it, because you can kill them by over-watering. They just need a filler, a gap. They just need a little bit to get them through until July. And hopefully we get our traditional monsoon rain. So that's kind of water. And you'll have that. It's in a form, it's a card like this. You can put it right in your irrigation box or your garden journal. I'll email that to you. If you put your email on there, I'll actually make sure you get that in a PDF format. You can print it out or digitize it, whatever you want to do with it. It's yours. Share it with friends, please. Let them know that watering's a really serious thing right now. Okay, let's move to summer stuff. And we're just starting to leaf out. So we're getting calls right now. Every day, I answer the phone. Oh, this tree didn't leaf out yet. It's dead. I want to bring it back. Or what do I do? Or just take a breath. Hold on. Some things are not interested in spring. They like the summer. Grapes do not leaf out in spring. They wait for summer. Figs have no interest in spring. They want it to be summer. Crepe myrtles, they're just barely starting to leaf out. They want it to be warm. It's been cold for them. So these summer things like Rosa Sharon's, all the Russian sage, all these plants that are famous in the summer, they're going to wait till the soil temperature gets a certain temperature, then they decide leaf out. They really need a week's worth of 70-degree temperatures before they really get going. And we've not seen that this spring. It's been a chilly spring. So it's been 60s, 50s a week ago. It's just, they don't like that. So your summer things are going to wait till it's warm out. And then they just take off. There's no holding them back. Some of your summer things, this is probably the most famous local that we have. This is desert willow. This is burgundy desert willow. It's got a brighter, deeper, richer, colorful flower to it. These are growing along the roadside in Dewey, Baghdad, Skull Valley. If you go over any ridge line, these are growing wild. What we've done is we found, you can just put that on the chair wherever, appreciate that. What we've done is we bred a new variety. The wild ones tend to put a bean pod on. And so as soon as they do that, they put all their energy into forming beans and seed, and they stop blooming. So we've found a variety that doesn't put seed on. And so now it just keeps into bloom. It blooms more often, and you can find the richer, deeper colors. This is called burgundy desert willow. And you're seeing these are the flowers. It'll start blooming here in another month or so, usually the end of May. They'll start going to bloom, and they'll keep blooming through the summer, early autumn season. It's fall color. It's gold, kind of an aspen, Arizona gold. Typically, desert willows grow in a kind of a big shrub or short tree again. Grows up into that mid-teens, kind of the same size as a red bud or serviceberry. Kind of that 20 foot is really ambitious for this. Really that 15 to 18 foot tall, probably right on the mark. And usually they grow in multi-stems. They just naturally grow in this big vase-shaped stem. Great tree. Get this up to size. Usually what I'll do is I'll put it on my drip system. I'll fertilize it like crazy. It'll get the size I want, and then I bend back the irrigation, and it never gets watered again. This can go by itself. This is truly a native. Critters do not eat this. Javelina, deer, rabbit, leave desert willow alone. So anyway, that's a native. A companion that goes with this goes very similar. This is chaste tree. Again, it's a summer bloomer. So again, it'll start blooming usually about when the desert willows go. Usually into May, first part of June, and it blooms right through summer into early fall. Chaste tree, or vitex is the botanical name. This again gets up to about 15 to 18 feet tall. Beautiful vase shape, and then blue spiky flowers. Kind of looks like a butterfly bush on steroids. Big blue flowers. What I notice about this, the butterflies love it. They love the blue color. They love the flavor of chaste tree. You're going to have more butterflies. You know what to do with. You have to go through the yard like this just to keep the butterflies from hitting you in the face. Just kind of, maybe it's not that bad. If you're looking up in a ladder with this, you'll just see butterflies all over the place. So I like to plant these at the base of decks because they'll grow up to about the size of the deck. And then you're looking over at all the blue flowers and all the butterflies. I do that with mimosas or silk tassel trees. I love to plant mimosas at the bottom of taller decks because you're looking out, looking at all the butterflies and hummingbirds. They just love these. So chaste tree, again, very drought hardy, very wind tough, takes our climate. Again, you can probably take it up, get up to size, cut it off of all care. I'm talking to a lot of investors right now. They're 1031 exchanging for their big expensive home. They got $1 bazillion for there. Get a tax benefit for buying. If you within so many months, you get a property, and they bought their dream home, and they got money left over. They were trying to avoid the tax. They're still buying investments, buying more homes. Now plant these in your investment properties because tenants can't kill them. They're just so tough. Anyway, deciduous tree again. Loses its leaves, and its fall color is, I'm pretty sure, gold. That gold again. So yeah, question. So would these do well for stabilizing soil? We know you guys are still there. We appreciate you tuning in, really. All trees are really good at stabilizing hillsides. Anything with a big root structure is going to be really good with that. Also, here in the mountains, the taproot is a myth. There is no taproot. That's a Midwest thing where you have 8 foot of topsoil. Yes, a taproot will go down. Here, it goes down about 18 inches, hits a rock, caliche layer, and goes sideways. Also, there's nothing down there for them. There's no water. There's no nutrients. There's nothing but more yuck down there. The nutrients and the moisture is when rain events happen. So all the roots are literally just below the surface, and they go out like this for dozens of feet. And they're waiting for moisture, rain, soaker hoses, and they'll pick that water up when that happens. So if you're doing that, when you plant this, any tree, any of these, don't dig the hole very deep. You can raise this up. Yeah, you all can see this. So you're only digging the hole about the same depth as the bucket. You don't have to go very deep. So much easier to dig a shallow hole that's wide than it is deep. But you're actually digging a hole 3 times the width. So it'll be wide and kind of saucer shaped. When you get all that dirt out, you're going to screen out or screed that soil. Anything bigger than a golf ball, get rid of it. Because all it does is heat up in summer and roast the roots. The water molecules can't hold on to big particles. You want smaller particles. So some of you are going to dig a hole and you'll hit a rock. It's just a big boulder. You're going to get into that. You'll bend a digging bar trying to get this thing out of there. The other mistake, especially for these that I'm showing off, these drought hardy guys, stop listening, for the love of gardening, stop listening to what Phoenix tells you what to do. We don't live in Phoenix. That's who lives down there. We live up here. This is a great place. So do not rain harvest. Do not let them tell you to put your plants in a divot. You're doomed when that happens. You want this soil, the root ball that you see here should be exposed to the air. It needs to breathe. And you want the soil, you want it to be level or even a little above your surrounding soil. You folks out that 69 corridor, the ranch, out by Hills, Prescott Valley, Dewey, all the way to Cordis Junction, Spring Valley. Heavy clay soils and caliche layers. If you actually put that below level and you get these afternoon rains, hopefully in the summer, it'll fill up and it won't be allowed to drain, won't be allowed to breathe. You'll literally drown it to death. So it needs to drain. Prescott Valley, the only way I could get things to grow out there, I actually left about that much of the root ball out of the ground. And then I mounded the soil up to the root ball. So no matter how much monsoon rains we had or that March snow seems to be another thing that kills, that heavy, wet snow in late winter, early spring tends to kill plants because it stays too soggy. So that allowed me to at least have that much of the root ball always breathe. And then I put my drip emitter or I put my water basin around that. That's a secret. That'll be a game changer for a lot of you that have real heavy clay soils. The Prescott Lakes, terrible. You can't dig a hole without a jackhammer out there. It's crazy. So that's how you plant those. That dirt that you have, after you screeded it, you want to add some mulch, blend that in with that native soil. If you don't add, we're trying to change the actual structure of the soil so it won't compact right back down to that clay structure. If you're digging out clay, you screed it, put it back around there, and you water it, it instantly turns back into a clay brick. And roots don't want to go through that. They don't like to change soil types. So what we're trying to do is keep the soil fluffier so the roots can get through it so you get established. At least for the first bit around there. Eventually it's got to get used to the clay. We want to get it used, we want to get it from this nice stuff, get a transition zone so it starts to make its way out. Mainly want to keep that soil from compacting right back down. After you get done, you pack it down, stomp on it. Usually we'll take some all-purpose plant food, handful of that, sprinkle it on there, water it in. You're done. What I recommend is taking some Root and Grow. It's a liquid transplant shock material. That's compost tea. We make it ourselves. But you add this to your watering can. You water that plant in with that Root and Grow, and it'll help it transition. It goes into major shock. When you rip this plant out of this home it's only known and put it in your ground and it's yucky soil, it's not going to be happy. It's going to get some yellow leaves. It's going to shed some leaves. It's going to be whining, going, I'm not happy. The Root and Grow helps it stabilize and get going. I hit it once when I first planted. I follow up in about 2 weeks. And I recommend doing every 2-week cycles until you see the plant stabilize. And you'll know because new leaves are coming out. You go, no, look, it's happy. That's great. I'm a gardener. Yeah. Stop the Root and Grow. That's when that all-purpose food starts to take over. That's what really does the work for the next 3 months or so. That's how you plant. You need mulch. You need food. You need Root and Grow. when you plant, every time you plant, no matter what you plant. And that's a secret to healthier, faster, more successful plantings out in your yard, okay? Chase tree, I got sidetracked. Big blue, spiky, butterfly-loving shrub. Yeah. What's that? Oh, critters. They're asking, do critters eat this? No. Can you guys see that? I wish you were here. The lighting's terrible right now. You should come in next time. Anyway, the animals don't eat this. Chase tree is kind of bulletproof. Yeah. Yeah, good question. Yeah, you could probably grow those in containers easily because they're just not really big, aggressive trees. You could also plant them by septic fields. I wouldn't go right next or alternate systems. There's all kinds of funky. I wouldn't put them right over my water pipes, but they're not aggressive. They're not invasive, like a willow. I'd never do that to a Lombardy poplar or aspen. They're going to wrap around your water lines, your sewers, squeeze them until they get what they want. That's your water. This is another one that can go. These are really showpieces. They're art pieces. Rose trees have two grafts. So we grafted right here onto stronger roots. Again, we're taking rootstock for roses that grows into clay. So there's different roots. You know where you're growing. You graft onto those, and then we'll take a stem. There's another graft right up here. So it's a double graft. And then you get the structure of this plant. So this looks like a fragrant cloud or something. What is this? This is a burst of joy grafted onto a different rootstock. This grows up to doesn't get that big, maybe like this. Easy to keep it down, trim. You're probably trimming it every March to keep it to size. But it'll just have a nice big trunk to it. There's some we're in great rose country here because it's so bright and it's so dry. So we don't get the mildews. I rarely see black spot, which is so common in the Midwest and the South. California, so common. They're fighting it all the time. We never fight it. Some powdery mildew, some aphids, and some thrip, but not that bad. Because we're so high altitude and it's so dry, we don't have the issues. And you don't have to protect them like you do in the Midwest. In the Midwest, they prune them back and they put cages around them and put leaves to keep them from freezing. We don't do anything here. They just come back and they're just beautiful all the time. So easier to grow roses here than probably anywhere else in the country. Okay. I think there's two sizes of tree roses out there right now. Okay. Then we had redbud, and then I think that's the end of the summer stuff. This is budlia or butterfly bush. Butterfly bush almost always grows as a shrub. I wish I'm putting the tree in between you and me because otherwise I'm showing you my ass, and I'm told never do that on camera. So anyway, butterfly bush always grows as a shrub, and they can get monstrous, like 12 feet tall. Especially the dark night, some of these old-fashioned, the ones your grandparents grew, they were huge. They were coming out with new varieties that are dwarfed. So they only get hip high. Some of them only get knee high. Super easy care and with the same flower to it. So now they aren't as aggressive, almost invasive sometimes. They actually do attract butterflies. That's the name, butterfly bush. It's super unusual to see them in tree form. Again, this is like a rose. Roses don't naturally grow like a tree. They have to be grafted to do that. So it's an artistic form. This has been grafted to do this. So again, rootstock, you'll see a graft here. There's another graft up here. And now we've got an actual trunk on this beautiful dwarfed butterfly bush. This will start blooming into May. Really, it's a summer bloomer. They also call it summer lilac. It's the same kind of flower as a lilac, but it blooms in the summers. Sometimes you'll see lilacs double pruned like this. But it's made to be, probably end up being you keep it about like this. So great in containers, raised beds, out there in that island where the driveway is going around, side of a patio, behind a pond. That's where you use these. They're pieces of art that draw you into going, wow, what is that? I've never seen that. They almost pull you into that part of the garden. That's how you design with these kind of specimen kinds of plants. That's all the summer things. There's a lot more. Again, you'll have a top 10 list of the fall colored fruiting trees, short trees, some drought hardy. You'll have that list to you. It's 2 pages. It's not just trees, it's also shrubs. The top 10 knee-high shrubs, top 10 hip-high shrubs, top 10 head-high shrubs. Kind of break it down. And I mainly use it for my staff, that list that you're going to get, because some of my new folks are master gardeners from Ohio, which is great. That knowledge doesn't translate to here. So Ohio, they have more ice storms. We have more wind. We need trees that have, we don't need as stronger branches, we need stronger leaves. So here's the top 10 maples that grow here. Here's the top 10 flowering shrubs that grow here. And it helps them guide, helps them kind of give the right advice quickly. And so now they're learning, they got a base of knowledge and they can build on from there. But I think it's also helpful for gardeners as well. So I think you'll value that as well. So you get 2 things, top 10 list, water guide. Okay, let's go to fruit trees. So you just got a bunch of fruit trees. I can't believe how many fruit trees are being sold right now. So fruits, okay, they do bloom. It just wants to go home or something. Go for it. Thank you. It's too full. Again, this probably has a double graft. These have been trained. It's hard to train a fruit tree. They just want to grow like this. So you have to actually work on a tree more than a shade tree because you need to get what we call the scaffolding right, or it'll load up with fruit. It can't hold all the weight of the fruit. So you want to get that branching spacing right so the trunk to the branch structure can hold more weight, because this thing can hold up, this can have 2-3 bushels of apples when it's bigger. And it's all about getting it growing in the right shape early, then it just matures more into that shape. So you don't have to prune as much. You're more successful sooner. That's our goal, is to help you be more successful sooner. Again, we're grafted onto clay soil, clay rootstock. This is probably, it looks like a Honeycrisp. Yeah, Honeycrisp apple. Pick your favorite apple. It probably grows here. It does really well. You got to watch your pollinators. So you got to have, I think Honeycrisp pollinates just about all the other apples, but it can't be 2 Honeycrisps. It's got to be a different apple. So Fuji's, Galas, Red Delicious, Golden Delicious, Macintosh, they all cross-pollinate with Honeycrisp, and Honeycrisp cross-pollinates with them. So it takes 2. Beautiful flowers, great fall color. All fruit trees have great, tremendous fall colors, typically reds and oranges. Pitted fruits, maybe there's some more yellows and oranges. Apples and pears are more red and oranges. So I find that apples and pears produce the best. Then it goes to probably peaches and cherries. Plums do really, really well. Nectarines and apricots, it's a feast or famine thing. They bloom so early that you either have so many apricots, you have no idea what to do with them all. You better have more friends and more canning material to give things away to, or you have none. So it's feast or famine with those because they bloom so early. The reason that apples do so well is because they're the last fruit tree to bloom in the spring of the year. They're just now starting to bloom. And we're kind of out of that risk of frost. You're almost guaranteed to get apples every year. Guaranteed to get pears every year. Almost every year with peaches and cherries. It's very, very consistent. But again, it's a bloomer. I bring it up because it kind of fits, but not really. But it's a tree that's pretty. We do not grow citrus. We do not grow avocados. Don't even ask me that. We just don't do that. What about what? Nuts. We grow almonds and some walnuts. So the Carpathian, the thin-shelled one, does really well. Of course, Arizona walnut grows wild. Walnut Creek is right up here. Grows wild. You'll never be able to get to the fruit because the shell on it's so thick. You almost need a hammer to get the thing open. Sweet as can be if you can figure out how to get to the nut. We don't grow pecans. Not really. The tree will go great. It won't produce nuts. You really got to be at that 4,000 foot and lower level to really have pecans, which everyone asks for. Pretty tree though. What else? That's it. Fig does well. Figs grow really well. They just don't grow tree form. We should probably cover that. What happens is, because Phoenix grows trees, fig trees, big trees. What happens is they get burned back every few years, back to the ground, like a perennial, and they'll come back from the roots. So what you'll find is we have very beautiful, good producing figs, but they're all shrubs. Great big shrubs. They don't grow into trees. Same with crepe myrtles. You won't find crepe myrtle trees around. It seems like every few years, you'll see them growing. Oh, Ken's wrong. I see a crepe myrtle tree, and then a winter will come, burn it back. It starts over from the ground. So you see beautiful shrubs that are just very old. But you just don't find old, like in the South, you see those big crepe myrtle trees. I've tried, really tried. Even if I can't grow it, I don't want to torture my friends with it either. So anyway, that's kind of we try to give advice and plants that work for here. But you'll find crepe myrtle trees out at the box store. Buy them, try them. I never tell gardeners what they can or cannot do, but you'll be back on, Ken. You're right. It's now a shrub. So kind of figs are the same way. They do well. Pomegranates, they'll also grow well. But again, they're kind of shrubs, more shrubby than they would be in, say, Tucson or someplace. Okay, yeah.
Back to the apples.
Yep.
I have one tree that's grafted and it's got golden, gala,
Cool.
Dorset,
Yep.
Anna. Are
Those are all good apples for here. So what she had for you folks online, I know you're there. She has a cocktail tree, we call it, where they've grafted multiple types. Is that a cocktail tree? Cool. Hey, put it right here, Jeremy. Perfect. So this one has 4 different types. This has got Granny Smith. It's got Fuji, Gala, and Ambrosia apples on the same tree. So you can't graft peaches onto here. It's a different genetic. As long as you go apples, you're good. In fact, many of the rootstock, we're using crabapple rootstock for it to graft the rat, because they've got a very aggressive, robust roots. We'll graft an apple onto that. But these are designed to grow together and then cross-pollinate each other, bloom late at the same time. And the beauty with cocktail trees, truly when it gets up to size, you're getting production. I mean, what do you do with 4 bushels of Granny Smith apples? I have no idea. It's too much. Here you got one branch of one section Granny Smith, and you can use that many. By the time they're done ripening, then the Fujis are coming on, and then you go to the Ambrosias, and so you're not having to harvest all the apples at once. So we're trying to graft apples or fruits that pollinate each other, but then have a succession of fruits over a longer period of time. So we've actually designed the sciences behind picking the right grafts to go on the tree and the right rootstock. Really, the right rootstock is everything. You get that, success will go up. I mean, that's half of why we're kind of noted as our plants live. That's our claim. As soon as our customers have a struggle, you won't need to shop here. Box stores have it cheaper. But because we've got better rootstock, better varieties, the success rate goes off the charts compared to a box store. You pay a little bit more, but you get a whole lot more success. And we're trying to get that niche. And I think independents can do that better than anyone else. That's kind of what we're trying to do. So good question. Did I answer that? Or you should be good. Should be good to go. Let's touch on evergreens, only because has nothing to pertain, because I got time, but just your shade trees. Put those on your south and southwest sides. That's where the prevailing wind is coming from in the spring. Cuts on the wind, and that's where the sun is coming from when it's hot. Deciduous trees need to go on the south and southwest sides to west, really, just to cut down the sun. It'll reduce your cooling costs. Then they lose their leaves, and now they let the radiant sun come in the winter, so you get solar gain in the winter. It's basic landscape design, I'm telling you here. Your evergreens go really on the northwest side, because the winds come down, and those cold, bitter winds of January into February, it bites through you. I don't care how well you seal up your house. It gets in the attic, it just permeates through. So you're trying to cut that wind from the northwest. So you're trying to cut that down for winter to reduce your heating bill for the winter. And then we use them for privacy. And I think for the bigger properties, I actually place some of these out towards the fence line. Like this is Arizona cypress. It's 20 foot tall, 12 foot wide, fast. It looks innocent, but it's going to turn into this big, huge thing. It's really good at cutting wind down. So if you really want to cut the wind, let's say Paulden, Prescott Valley, Chino, they get that wind that just tunnels through Paquito Valley. Just wind is blowing through. Put these on your southwest side because that's when the spring, you're out there using the space right now, and it's just too windy. You can cut the wind down and keep the wind above the roof line so you go enjoy the back patio simply by placing some of these to the southwest. That's where the prevailing wind comes from. That's kind of how you use evergreen trees. This is another one. It's so tough. Get it up to size. I put it on a drip system, fertilize it like crazy until it just grows. This thing I put on 2-3 feet this year. Now, evergreens really don't grow very much the first year. They're rooting. That next year they go, boom, just like that. Second they get their roots underneath them, they just take off. So you swear they're not doing anything, but they're forming their roots. Another thing about evergreens, they don't fill out very well in buckets. They need to have their roots in the ground. Whereas your deciduous trees, they're easier to groom and get to looking like a miniature tree. These guys really need to be in the ground to really start to grow and become something. So where to place these? Northwest to cut that wind. Really, these are wind protection, privacy protection. It's how you really produce, how you really plant these. When I'm designing, when I'm looking at a property, going, oh, this is where our evergreens want to go. Or my neighbor's right there in their skivvies looking at me, sipping tea while I'm waking up in the morning. I want one right there. So there's places to put them. So that's kind of how you design with evergreens and incorporate those into your, deciduous tree plants. Okay, we're 1 hour in, almost exactly 1 hour. This is great. So if you got questions, I'll kind of hang and I'll just answer questions. You can come up and look at these as long as you want. So yeah.
The root system on those?
On the Arizona cypress?
Yeah.
Root system on Arizona cypress. That's the question is, what are they like? They're not bad. They're not invasive. The other thing too, my name's Ken. We're just friends. We're talking over the back fence. This works for me. I like to limb the bottom limbs off so I can clean up easier underneath. Otherwise, it tends to gather trash. Just things blow underneath. The negative, if you like quail love to camp out underneath these. If you like that, just leave them limbed right to the ground. Same with your spruce trees, your all those evergreens that grow real low, swooping branches. I like to prune them up just one so I can rake underneath easier, just make my job easier. Then I've got lots of birds, so not invasive at all.
Are they low watering?
Super low water, yeah. What I would do right now, I've planted some things. The ground is really dry. And so when I'm digging that hole out, I'll actually fill up half the hole with water, just sitting in water. I'll put a good foot of water in there. I'm actually planting, I'll put the root ball in the soggy, gross water. What I'm trying to do is, I don't care about the plant root. What's happening is I'm finding rookies are going out planting and they're watering the plant and they're not watering the surrounding soil. The soil is so dry, it wicks the water away almost instantly from the plant and the plant is suffering. It's drying out too fast. You're seeing the symptoms. Now, several times a day I'm seeing this. So when you're planting, try to water the surrounding soil so that it's less likely to wick away the moisture that plant you're trying to protect. That'll really help the plant. It's kind of a gardener thing. Think what is the soil doing to my plant's roots? Yeah.
Well, I have a question, but while you're still on that, I wanted to say that my first snow share, I have one of those on my property.
Yep.
It's so flat, it looked like it melted.
Yeah.
And it comes back.
Yeah.
So now for 3 years, I've been watching this completely disappear.
Yeah.
And it comes back up.
So let me just repeat for you folks online. She's got an Arizona cypress, and the snow takes it in the spring, it's wet, heavy snows, and has it flop over, then it pops back up. These are very fast growers. So most of your evergreens are pretty fast, and the new growth is pretty tender and any amount of weight. So what I encourage you to do, probably for this, or anytime you plant an evergreen, even a bigger spruce, we've got some that are as big as I am. They shouldn't need to be staked, but because of the snow, what will happen is they're typically in a ball and burlap. It's a round root ball that we've wrapped in burlap to keep it protected. You put it in the ground, it's very heavy, and it's not gonna blow over. It's not the wind. What happens is these structures on these evergreens load up with snow, and they just kind of fall over. Then you set them back up, but you're starting over with the root structure. So you didn't kill it, but you want the roots. And so every time it does this, you're losing your root, those fine root hairs. You stake those trees, even the smaller ones, at least for a year, sometimes 2 for really small ones. So the roots can get into the surrounding soil, we don't have to worry about it falling over. And it's the heavy snows of really March. It's what really gets them. There you go. Good advice. Now you had a question. That was a comment.
My apple and plum got these water shoot branches that I
Suckers.
don't know, was it a result from poor pruning or something went on, but then when it came to get pruned again the right way,
Yeah.
you know, I can only do a third.
Right.
So I still have these things. Am I going to be stuck with these?
So what she has what we call suckers coming up. She pruned her fruit trees specifically. This is notorious for fruit trees, especially apples and cherries. They seem to be really notorious. She pruned them back. Then they sent off these shoots that come up, and a lot of shoots. So when you made a cut, 2 or 3 shoots will come up from that cut. And then they were pruned wrong. They just had too much of this. The professional came in and tried to correct it, but it might take a couple of years to get it back to correction, because you only, what the book says, you can only prune up to 1/3 of the foliage mass back in one season. Otherwise, you're taking too much leaf area out, and it'll stress because you don't have enough leaves left to create photosynthesis. Anyway, going into too much science. What do you do? So what I do is, like, I've got a beautiful peach tree. It's this big around in a pot. It's in a container. It shouldn't be grown like that, but I wanted it. I want it on a patio. It's shading my hot tub. I wanted it, and it's pretty. I'm a strong believer in summer pruning. The suckers specifically, those water shoots, those limbs coming up, prune in like January. After January, prune regularly like you would, then it's going to grow like crazy. And then come back in July, August, whenever you get the fruit off of that, you're done picking the fruit, go prune it. Thin back those shoots coming up, and that'll keep it under control. I'm growing in a container. I've got a 10-year-old peach tree. It should be 20 feet tall. I step up on the pot, and it's only this tall. Maybe it's only 8 feet because I prune it in the winter, and I also prune it in the summer, those suckers. I think if you're growing things on a fence line, do the same thing. If you just want to keep things down small, where you can get things where you can pick fruit with a fruit picker and not have to climb up on a ladder to go get stuff. Just keep summer pruning, I think, is under-taught on fruit trees, especially mountain fruit trees. Be a game changer. Your apples, pears, and cherries, these are big trees. Pitted fruits are pretty small. Apricots don't get that big. Peaches, they don't get that big. Nectarines don't get that big. Figs they stay small. So they're less important, but those bigger ones you need to really watch. That's a good question, good thing. I got a whole class, kind of late winter, on just how to do that. Last question, yeah.
What about deer-resistant flowering trees?
So we covered a few of them. So the chase tree, the desert willows, magnolias. What else was up here that are just bulletproof? Purple leaf plum. You're right out there with the javelina, antelope, deer just roaming around. They're good. Red buds. They don't eat those. So when you shop them, come talk to us so we can hone you in for the right ones, so we don't make a blatant mistake. What we're finding now is the animals are so desperate the drought has got them really eating things they would never dream of eating before. I'm hoping we've had enough rain where I think the wildflowers are going to be pretty good. Once their native stuff they much prefer are up, the pressure will be off your landscape and more onto things they actually like. But they're starving. They're having a hard time. So, yeah.
Quick questions online.
Online. Hey, thanks for asking a question. Remember, like and subscribe. It helps us out. We're small business owners. We're taking on predators like Home Depot and Lucifer's Lowe's. Help us out.
Eve asks, best time to plant lilac.
Oh, best time to plant lilacs was like 2 months ago because they're in full bloom right now. But the next best time is right now when you want them. So we've got quite a few lilacs.
Nancy asks, do you have any white Vitex or white Chase?
Do you have any white Vitex? Not yet. I've got blue. You know you really want blue, right? There you go. So I'll probably have white. Actually, this year, I don't know. The market is so upside down that there's so many hiccups with trucking and plant and gardening is back. It's big. It's bigger than ever. With the last downturn, people walked away. They were kicked out of their house by the banks. So gardening just took it in the chin. They just really suffered. People stopped gardening. And so we've been plodding along. Then COVID comes. And people realized, I like being in my backyard. Fresh air is good. I'm behind. Zoom calls are bad. I like my garden. And so they're now gardening. Families are gardening. And it has just we're going to double our business in the next 2 years. We're not a small business. This is the big, it's almost like the trajectory was here. And 2010, it went down. And then all of a sudden, it's like, shoom, it's right back where it was. And so the supply chain, this chase tree, this is probably planted 3 years ago. You had to plan for COVID 3 years ago. A bigger tree like this is a pinyon pine. This is the one you get the nuts off of. This is the exact variety that get those buttery nuts. This isn't the native one. This is a better one that doesn't get scale. This is probably 10, 12 years old. You had to plan a decade ago to start this thing and grow it up to this, prune it. And they just didn't, you can't guess. Once you run out of these, it's not like you can press a button and more are created. So the big specimens are kind of gone. So if you see something like a white Vitex and it shows up, you better not go home and think about it because they'll be gone that afternoon because it's that kind of pressure on things. With that, I'm done, even for folks online. Sorry. Maybe come in and talk to us and ask us. And then I'll just hang out and answer questions, whatever you think. I'll let you kind of clap just because it's the last class. Last class until June. We'll start back up, I think, June 16 or 14. We'll post those on our website. We kind of have them sort of planned. We're coming together with speakers and that kind of stuff here shortly. But we're going to take a little break for spring because the facility is just overwhelmed with people. And we'll come back at it this summer. Thanks, you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, you had a question? Yeah, what's up?
I just was curious about how much of these we grow, because I live in Flagstaff,
Yes.
68,000
Yeah.
feet.
Yeah.
Anything-
You're zone 6,
Is that what-
5B, 6. You're,
Okay.
most of these are going to be fine.